Shortly after the vicious attack on the US bases at Pearl Harbor, the Americans were eager to counter, although not yet ready for a full-scale response. They were not fully mobilized, and the Japanese Navy still dominated much of the Pacific. But Lieutenant Colonel James Doolittle submitted to the High Command a daring plan to bomb Tokyo with B-25 Mitchell bombers deployed from aircraft carriers. The idea sounded crazy, as nothing like it had ever been done before, bearing in mind that the aircraft carrier runways were too short. 16 B-25s would be retrofitted for this mission. On April 18, 1942, Doolittle commanded this endeavor personally by flying one of the bombers. The mission still faced the risk of interception. The squadron escorting the aircraft carriers could be captured by the Japanese Navy, and the bomber squadron could be intercepted by fighters, as they would not have the support of other fighter planes. The plan was to launch from the carriers, drop bombs, and land in China. However, upon sighting a Japanese patrol, the attack was rushed, and the planes were ordered to take off sooner than planned. Everyone held their breath as the massive plan successfully took off one after another from the aircraft carriers. The Japanese provided no aerial opposition and, like the American military months earlier, were completely blindsided by the attack. Doolittle and his men dropped a few tons of bombs on Tokyo and Nagoya, the heart of the Japanese Empire. It sent the message that they were not safe even though they were thousands of miles away from their enemies. The bombing damage was limited, but it had a big symbolic impact. After the attack, however, the American pilots were still unsafe. The hasty takeoffs prevented the planes from having enough fuel to reach the Allied Chinese bases. Some were forced to land or crash in the Chinese Sea. Others made emergency landings in Chinese territory, both in enemy-held and friendly areas. One plane made it to Vladivostok in the Soviet Union. Doolittle and his crew parachuted out of the plane. The colonel tumbled over a pile of dung in a Chinese rice field. This could have been an embarrassment, but Doolittle considered it a blessing, as the manure pile cushioned his fall. Of the mission's 80 crew members, 69 managed to return to the United States without being captured. 3 soldiers lost their lives in action. 8 were captured, 3 of whom were eventually executed by the Japanese. Because he had lost his planes and did little damage during the mission, Doolittle expected to be court-martialed upon his return to the United States. However, due to the mission's large positive impact on American morale, who were eager to exact revenge on the Japanese, the colonel and his men were welcomed back as heroes. Doolittle was promoted to brigadier general, and his men were awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. The Doolittle attack was to be just the first of thousands of missions that bombed Japanese territory, until the atomic bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were dropped, putting a grim end to the conflict.